I'm probably the last person you'd expect to tell a story like this. I don't believe in ghosts. And honestly, I think most paranormal stories are complete BS. But I still can't explain what happened that weekend. About 2 weeks ago, my buddy Steve asked if I could watch his dog while he and his wife celebrated their anniversary. Easy money. Actually, he wasn't even paying me. I just figured I'd help him out. He lived way out in the middle of nowhere in this huge custom-built house surrounded by nothing but woods. Exactly the kind of place where your phone barely gets a signal. Steve joked before he left. "Don't freak out if the house gets creepy at night." I laughed and told him, "Dude, nice try." I wasn't buying it, not even a little. Friday night was completely normal. The dog and I watched TV, ate way too much junk food, and crashed around 1 in the morning. Then, 3:21 a.m., I woke up to the loudest barking I'd ever heard. Not normal barking. This was, "There's somebody in this house," barking. I ran downstairs. The golden retriever was standing in the kitchen, locked onto the basement door. Every hair on his back was standing straight up. He wasn't looking at me. He wasn't looking around. He never took his eyes off that basement door. I tried calming him down. Nothing. He just kept barking. Over and over and over. My first thought? Somebody broke in. I grabbed the biggest kitchen knife I could find and opened the basement door. The second I touched the doorknob, the dog completely lost it. Instead of barking, he started crying. Actually crying. I'd never heard a dog make sounds like that before, but he still refused to go downstairs. Not one step. I flipped on the basement lights and started walking down. "All right, man. If somebody's down here, you better come out now." Yeah, I was bluffing. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it. The basement was completely finished. Nice furniture, big TV, bathroom, storage rooms. I checked everywhere. Behind furniture, inside closets, every single corner. Nothing. Nobody. But something felt off. It was freezing. Way colder than any basement had a right to be. Like walking into a giant freezer. I stood there for another minute, listening. Nothing. Absolute silence. I went back upstairs. The dog wouldn't even step through the doorway. That alone creeped me out more than the cold did. The next morning, everything was fine. The basement felt normal. The dog happily followed me downstairs, tail wagging, like the night before never happened. I figured maybe he'd heard an animal in the walls. Made sense. Or at least, I wanted it to. Saturday night, I decided to sleep on the couch, just in case. Sure enough, 3:21 a.m. Again. The barking exploded through the house. This time, it was worse. Way worse. The dog looked absolutely terrified. The second I grabbed the basement doorknob, he stopped barking and started whining like he knew something awful was waiting down there. I opened the door anyway. The cold hit me instantly. But this time, there was another problem. The smell. Man, it was awful. rotten, wet, almost metallic, like something had been sitting down there for days. I covered my nose and walked downstairs. That's when I noticed family pictures had been knocked off the walls. Bar stools were lying on the floor. Nobody had been there earlier. I knew that. I picked everything back up, looked around one more time, and found absolutely nothing. No broken window, no open door, no signs anyone had been inside. Just that smell. By morning, it had disappeared. Every bit of it. No odor, no cold, nothing. The basement looked completely normal. Even weirder, the dog walked downstairs without the slightest hesitation, like whatever had been there was gone. Sunday afternoon, Steve came home. I laughed while telling him what happened. I expected him to roast me. Instead, his face went completely pale. He got really quiet. Then he looked at me and said, "When he was a puppy, he used to bark at that basement door exactly like that. Every single night." I stared at him. What was down there? He slowly shook his head. "We never found anything. One day, he just stopped doing it." Ever since that weekend, the dog hasn't barked at the basement again. But every now and then, I'll wake up in the middle of the night and pray it isn't 3:21 a.m. Because sometimes animals notice things that we never will.
People always ask me, what's the creepiest thing that's ever happened to you? And every single time, I tell them the same story. Not because I think it was paranormal, but because I still can't explain it. A few years ago, after a rough breakup, I moved into a quiet apartment complex. Honestly, it was the fresh start I needed. The place was beautiful. Friendly neighbors, nice courtyard, clean hallways. Nothing ever happened there. Or so I thought. About a month after moving in, I started hearing footsteps late at night. Not walking, running. Tiny footsteps, like little kids sprinting through the hallway. I figured maybe someone's grandkids were visiting. Annoying, but no big deal. A few nights later, I heard something different. Soft giggling, right outside my bedroom window. Now, my apartment was on the first floor. The bedroom window faced the courtyard. Anybody could walk right up to it. That thought always made me a little uneasy. Still, I figured it had to be neighborhood kids messing around. I knocked on the glass and said, "Hey, knock it off." The giggling stopped. Then, tap, tap, tap. Something tapped back on my window. My heart skipped a beat. I yanked the curtain open. Nobody. Not a single person. Just an empty courtyard. No footsteps. No laughter. Nothing. It didn't make any sense. A few days later, my apartment manager emailed me. She wanted me to stop by her office after work. She sounded serious. When I got there, she locked the office door. Then a security guard walked in carrying a laptop. Neither of them looked happy. The manager quietly said, "We need to show you something." She played security footage from my hallway. The timestamp read 2:03 a.m. Two small hooded figures walked up to my apartment door. They looked about the size of 10-year-old kids. They didn't knock. They didn't move. They just stood there. The manager fast-forwarded the video. 10 full minutes passed. Those kids never moved an inch, not even their heads, just standing there, facing my door. Finally, one of them reached for the doorknob. It slowly twisted it, again and again, trying to get inside. When the door wouldn't open, both children skipped away, laughing. The security guard checked every camera in the complex. Those kids never appeared again. It was like they vanished. Now, I was officially freaked out. I told them about the giggling outside my bedroom window. The security guard checked those cameras too. Nothing. No children, no movement, just an empty courtyard. The police were called, but they assumed it was neighborhood kids pulling a prank. Honestly, I wanted to believe that too. About a week later, it happened again. Around 1:30 in the morning, I heard my doorknob slowly rattling. I walked over as quietly as I could. Somebody was trying to get in. Then, I heard a little girl giggle, followed by another tiny voice. Soft, almost sweet. "Mom, we're home. Please let us in." Every hair on my body stood up. I looked through the peephole. 2 small hooded children, heads hanging down, standing perfectly still. I shouted, "You've got the wrong apartment. Go home." Silence. Then, the little voice spoke again. "Please, just let us in." The way she said it, it almost sounded desperate. Before I could answer, both kids started laughing. The doorknob shook violently. One of them slammed into the door, again and again, like they were trying to force it open. I grabbed the deadbolt, even though I knew it was already locked. Then, everything stopped. No laughter, no banging, nothing. I looked through the peephole again. The hallway was empty. The police came. They searched the building. Nobody found anything. A few days later, the apartment manager pulled me aside. She looked nervous. She quietly said, "The woman who lived in your apartment before you, something terrible happened involving her children." I asked what she meant. She wouldn't tell me. She said she'd already shared too much. Then she looked me dead in the eyes and whispered, "Keep your door locked." I never heard the children again. Eventually, I moved out. Years later, I still think about those voices, about those security videos, about 2 children standing perfectly still outside my apartment for 10 whole minutes. And here's the part that still bothers me the most. There weren't any children living in my building. Not one. Every entrance required a key. No broken locks, no forced entry, no explanation. Sometimes, late at night, I'll remember that tiny voice. "Mom, we're home. Please let us in." And every single night before I go to bed, I still check that my front door is locked.